Hello. Today we're going to talk about Mysterious Skin. That movie for me was so sad. And the reason why it was sad was because Neil was being abused in all types of ways. And yet he silenced himself. But before we get there, let's talk about the opening of the movie. The opening of the movie had a still frame. And it had Fruit Loops falling down. And the Fruit Loops was falling down on Neil as a child. And to me, the Fruit Loops represent abundance because everywhere you look, there was nothing but Fruit Loops, and it was a kind of like a, I would say a reference to his relationship with Coach Hyder, who abused him as a child but gave him everything he wanted. He was the one that gave him cereal and Fruit Loops and snacks and all things of that sort, and that reminded me of um, that specific scene when he had the Cheerios falling down upon his head. And then he had a childhood moment because he opened his mouth as if he could catch every Cheerio there, and he didn't close his mouth at all, not one time during that scene. And I thought that was pretty funny, but it's a bittersweet moment because it still made a reference to his molester, who is Coach Hyder. Then there's another character, and his name is Brian, and he comes into the story as being a little child who had no voice as well, similar to Hyder. They both were silenced. Um, Brian was crying. He had a nosebleed from playing sports, and his father said, "At least I wasn't a quitter." And Brian said sorry. So his father neglected his feelings and how he felt about sports, and his father was a go-getter, and he made his son seem as if he was weak and a punk. And I felt that was very sad because his son was in a state of being lost, and instead of him having his father being there to support him, he only had his mother there. And I thought that was very sad because he didn't have anyone to look up to. He didn't have a dad to say, "Hey, I tried my best with the game." He didn't have any of that. Everything. His father was neglectful of how his son felt and treated him like a wimp. And then his father left the bathroom. So to me, that was a very sad scene. His father. So basically, Brian only has his mother to look up to for moral support, even as he got older. And then there was a scene where his father, before I get there, Brian keep having these episodes of falling out and nosebleeds, and he was wondering where it was coming from. So he thought it was UFOs because when he was with his mother, he saw something passing over their house, and he said it was a UFO. Now, I don't know if his mother agreed to that or not, but she knew that he was a child, and that was just his imagination. So he met up with a woman named Averlyn, and Averlyn actually said that she believes in UFOs as well. This is when Brian was around 15, 16 years old, and so was Averlyn. And she said, "Everything is in the subconscious." That was to paraphrase her quote. And I knew that I was right. I knew that Brian was hiding and repressing something, and he thought that it was just coming from his dreams. He had dreams of UFOs all the time. And then this one particular dream, he had a dream that there was a hand touching him. And I knew that there had to be something dealing with sexual relations. So he went to go meet a guy named Neil, who I mentioned before, and they talked over the incidents of his dream, and come to find out he was being molested, and that his dream was from the subconscious, and that he repressed what he was feeling, and that's why he fainted so much as he did. Neil, he took his sexual frustrations out by being a prostitute. He was prostituting and selling his body to numerous men, and that was his way of dealing with the molestation that he had when in his younger days. Neil felt honored with his molester, who was Coach Hyder. He said that he felt honored as a child because he was one of the star players, and Coach Hyder made him feel very good when it came to sports. But the reality was he was making him feel good but hurting him at the same time. Neil also in his childhood had a scene where they went to a Halloween party and they were walking outside, and Neil played the bully, and he took this boy into the to a wilderness, and he gave him oral sex. So he was being an abuser in that instance as well. He was practicing what Coach Hyder had did to him. He practiced it upon someone else. And Neil was also the one who recruited children for Coach Hyder. He was Coach Hyder's right-hand man when it came to finding children so that they could be victimized by Coach Hyder. For instance, Coach Hyder, he brought in Brian because one day Brian was sitting down in the baseball field and everyone was gone. The parents had came to pick up their children, and Brian was just sitting there. So Neil came up and said, "We'll take you home." And he was playing the role of being an abuser because he was influenced so much by by Hyder, that so he brought Neil home to Coach Hyder's home, brought Brian to Coach Hyder's home, and when he brought him there, that's when he started to do a lot of sexual advances towards Brian. Neil said, "Let's play a game. You kiss me, I kiss you." He began to kiss him. After he kissed him, he began to grope him sexually, and I just found the whole thing to be disgusting because there was even a scene where literally Brian put his hand up, his fist up Coach Hyder's anus, and I found it to be very sad and hideous. And I thought that was very sad. And at the end, they had they were sitting on a chair. They went inside of Nick Hyder's house, Coach Hyder's house, and I actually thought that they was gonna find him there, but they didn't. They just found carolers singing Christmas songs, but they related to each other their story. They was piecing everything together, and so Neil didn't feel alone anymore. He didn't feel like he was a child that was molested and lost because Brian had the same story. Brian couldn't handle it, and he began to cry. As he cried, his nose began to bleed. And it was a sad story just to see both of them sitting there power for so many years that their parents didn't even know what was going on. Just like when Neil was raped for being a prostitute, he was used to receiving sexual favors, but this time he had to perform a sexual favor on another guy, and he was raped. And he lied and said that he was robbed at an airport. So Neil continues to lie about his sexual mistreatments, while Brian continues to repress his. But while they sat there on the couch that day inside of Coach Hyder's home, they let it all out. And then at the end of the movie, the lights switched off, and all you could see was a table, a lamp, and a couch. And to me, that represented how lost they were in the world because they were silenced and no one could hear their cries. No one knew what was going on inside of that house, and no one knew what went on inside of their lives. So I hope that you enjoyed. I hope that when you watch Mysterious Skin, you enjoy the movie. It's very sad, but it's uplifting only because of the fact that Brian and Nick both come to a conclusion that they both were molested and they let it out and they were honest about their feelings. And hopefully at the end of the movie, they actually spoke to someone else about it to shed light on their abuse. Thank you and have a good night.